Hi there, everybody, and welcome back to another great episode of Markers and Monsters. Today, I'm going to be doing the Wolfman from the amazing 1941 Universal classic film. Now, this coincides a little bit with the Dracula black and white drawing I did a couple of episodes ago. I've actually done a whole series of the Universal monsters, all in black and white with colored eyes. Tons of fun to do. I really love Universal horror. You guys should know that by now. And working in black and white is really a fun thing to do, I find. It creates very striking drawings with lots of contrast, and the black ink on top of it looks absolutely stunning. I went with a different color eyeball for each of the Universal monsters I did in the series. The Wolfman here actually has orange eyes, so I hope that comes up okay on the camera. I don't know if in the films he had orange eyes, but I'm taking a little bit of artistic license with it, you know. As you can see, I'm just kind of throwing out a very basic sketch of the Wolfman's face. There he is, kind of snarling at the camera. And we're going to do a very simple background, too, so as not to detract. As you'll notice, the face is very big, takes up pretty much the entirety of the frame of the drawing. So good stuff. And I'm doing this all in cool gray markers. Warm grays produce a very different tone. Cool grays have a lot of blue in them. I hate to sound redundant, but they're a very cooler shade of color as opposed to a warmer shade. So there you go. But anyway, while I'm filling that in and you watch me draw, let's talk about the movie. As I said, The Wolfman came out in 1941, and it was part of the Universal horror monsters cycle, I guess you could call it, that have such classics as Dracula, Frankenstein, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Mummy, those guys, you know, good stuff. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of this movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go and check it out as soon as you can. With Halloween right around the corner, there's no perfect time to watch this. Another one you could even watch with your kids is, you know, I'm not going to say it's tame, but it's not anything that's going to like scar them for life. That's for sure. I saw this movie at a young age, and well, I guess it did warp me horribly, but you know, hopefully your kids will be different. No, I kid. It's a good film to watch with the whole family. Great atmosphere, great shots of spooky, misty moors at night. Great acting, especially from the lead, who is Lon Chaney Jr., and he is amazing in his role as Larry Talbot, the unfortunate gentleman who comes to his ancestral home in Wales after the death of his brother to reconcile with his father, who he hasn't seen for a while. The father is played by Claude Rains, another spectacular horror actor who was also the Invisible Man. But here he's just playing Larry Talbot's father, Sir John Talbot. While visiting his ancestral home in Wales, American Larry Talbot decides to go and view the little town that's around his father's castle. And there he meets the beautiful Gwen Conliffe, played by Evelyn Ankers. She runs a little antique shop where he ends up buying a cane with a silver head and a wolf's head on it and a pentagram, which represents werewolves, which are around the region. Later on, Larry goes to see some gypsies who have camped out in the nearby woods. Another great scene of him going to the fortune teller. She is played by actress Maria Ospenskaya. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not. But great, like old gypsy fortune teller woman. And her son, played by Bela Lugosi, Dracula himself, turns out to be a werewolf who, while trying to save one of Gwen's friends, Larry gets in a fight with, and the werewolf, Bela Lugosi, bites him. So there's a little bit of trivia. What caused the Wolfman to be the Wolfman? Dracula. Yep. So anyway, now cursed with werewolfism, unfortunately. It's a tragic tale as Larry tries desperately to avoid, wolfing out and killing anybody when the full moon comes, which appears to be every night, every night for weeks. But that being said, it's a great character piece. You really feel for Larry Talbot. It's very dramatic and just a great story with a lot of good action, a lot of good atmosphere, like I've mentioned before, good acting. Pretty much everything is great in this. All right, let's get into the inking here as I finish up the background little bits of things. This is coming along nicely. Now, Larry Talbot, played by Lon Chaney Jr., very interesting as it is the only Universal monster to be played by the same guy throughout all of the movies. They made 3 direct sequels to this. 2 years later, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, one of the best and most classic of the Universal monster movies. Another great one to watch around Halloween time. After Frankenstein Met the Wolfman, we got the House of Frankenstein and the House of Dracula. And it's great because if you watch these in order, they really follow a progression of Larry's character, going from, wanting to die so he doesn't kill anybody, and to removing his curse, to trying to find a cure, to an ultimate end for his character, which is really good and really satisfying, I have to say. I'd say House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula aren't the best of the Universal movies, but in terms of carrying his character along, they can't be ignored. Now, they also made Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein later, where Lon Chaney Jr. plays Larry and the Wolfman, of course, but I don't really consider that movie in the canon proper. It's more of just a silly, goofy side story kind of thing. I don't consider that to be the next chapter, as it were. I consider Larry's story to be over at the end of House of Dracula. But hey, some people do, and if you do, great. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is a good movie, I'll say. I'm not a huge Abbott and Costello guy, as much as some others are. But if you are, or if you're just curious, it's a fun one to check out, as the jokes are goofy and there's a lot of silliness. And they have terrific sets and props and designs and all that kind of good stuff. Pardon me. All right, as you can see, I'm working here on getting all the hair put in. That is quite a feature of the Wolfman. He's a very hairy gentleman. Hair's a lot of fun to do here with the ink, as you can just do little lines and worry about just like the direction all the hair is going, the little wavy lines, jutting out. That's the best way to do it, and practice is the only thing that's going to help with that if you're trying to work with getting hair down. Consider it a big mass, and then consider the direction that each little lock of hair is going. But you can't put it in too much, or it's just going to look like a bunch of squiggly crossed over lines, But anyway, like I said, practice is helpful with that, as is getting some reference shots to use at the time. I'm going to go very simply with the inking on his outfit there, as I kind of don't want it to really stand out too much, as it's the face and the eyes that are the thing I want to capture your attention the most. And to that extent, I think I achieved that pretty darn well. So just watching this come together again makes me want to go watch some Universal monster movies. So that might be my goal for the weekend. I'm also going to be renting the new Mummy movie to check out and see how that comes. So fingers crossed that it's good. I've heard mixed things, but as much as I've heard bad, I've heard good too. But all right, guys, I'm finishing the touch-ups and stuff like that. Let's take a look at the scan. Okay, there we go. Another day, another beautiful black and white Universal monster rendered out. Good times. I love talking about the Universal monsters. If you guys have any favorite Universal monster movies, or any favorite werewolf or Wolfman movies or anything like that, please let me know. I want to hear about it. Let's talk about it. Let's get a conversation going. All right, guys, that's it for me. We are rapidly approaching the Halloween season and Drawloween, so that's pretty darn exciting. And I've got some other treats planned for you guys before then, so stay tuned for all of that. All right, that's it for me, and we'll see you on the next episode of Markers and Monsters.